Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we have two big piles of books, my Q1 2025 TBR and also all the books that I got for Christmas. Yes, I know Christmas was a while ago, but we're going to talk about them now because I haven't really touched them since I opened them. And we're going to be doing things a little bit differently because I'm going to actually try to guess what each of these books are about. One thing you should know about me is that I no longer really read the synopsis of books that I buy. I used to be one of those people that'd be like, how do you not read the synopsis? Like, how do you know if you're going to like it? But now I will buy a book, either I thrift it and it looks cool, maybe I'll glaze the synopsis, or most likely a mutual of mine that I trust and I love their book recs talked about it and I'm like, okay, I trust you, I'm gonna buy it. But also a lot of times what happens is that I'll add the book to my TBR months, even years ago, like you'll see, and then I'll never read the synopsis again and I'll buy it because I know, oh, this book is on my TBR, but I haven't read the synopsis in like years, so I don't actually remember what it's about. I just know it's a book I want to read. So that's what we're gonna do today, because at first I was gonna talk about what all these books are about, but then I was like, no, I don't like reminding myself what a book is about because then I feel like the synopsis kind of spoils it, because even if I read the synopsis like months or years ago, I don't remember what it's about, and that's fine because that means I can go into the book basically blind, or if I heard someone talking about it, I won't remember what they said. I'll just remember that, oh, I trust them, and so I bought it. I do not like to know, even the synopsis to me is a spoiler. I really prefer to go into books completely, like as much as possible blind. So I decided, you know what, no, I'm not going to change that for this video. Instead, I'm just going to try to guess what each of these books are going to be about. And then at the end, I also want to talk about my 2025 reading goals, because 2024 was a good reading year, but I think I was really hard on myself, so I'm changing things a bit this year, but we'll get to that. Starting first with the books I got for Christmas, we have Rage of Dragons. So I've seen so many of my mutuals talk about this, which is why I knew I had to buy it. Kind of wish they'd got me the bigger book, but maybe this is just what was available. Rage of Dragons is obviously about dragons. A lot of the times when I've seen people talk about this book and this author, actually, they're usually talking to people that have read books by Brandon Sanderson and are looking for something similar. So I guess it's going to be epic fantasy. But that's really all I know. It's dragons and it's going to be epic fantasy. And if you like Brandon Sanderson, then you will like Rage of Dragons. Next, we have Captive Prince and Prince Gambit. My sister was really annoyed that they didn't have the trilogy like in a pack to buy as one. There was a very funny story about this book. So 2 years ago when I read The Cruel Prince, it's not, you can't see it, but it's these 3 books. My sister actually recommended, she was like, I want you to read Captive Prince. So I go to the store and I'm seeing Cruel Prince and I'm thinking, oh, my sister talked about it, but then I also saw it on Book Talk. A lot of people talk about The Cruel Prince. So I mistook Captive Prince for Cruel Prince. So I came home and telling her, I'm reading that book you recommended and I'm actually really enjoying it and people talk about it on social media a lot. And then she's like, oh my God, that's like so great. And then she sees the book I'm reading and she's like, you fucking idiot, that's not the book. And so this is like a running joke where every time she brings it up, she's like, I cannot believe it's been 2 years since I recommended this book to you and you still haven't read it. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. She like gets so mad at me because she's like, instead of reading this masterpiece that she read 10 years ago, I'm reading a book with a guy with a tail. And she makes fun of me so much. She tells everyone, she's like, instead of reading that book, she was reading one with like the guy has a tail. And I'm like, can we please just stop like with the tail? Like, can we just focus on other things? So even though actually Captive Prince was not on my Christmas list, it wasn't on my Christmas list, but she got it for me anyways because I guess she's just getting annoyed with all my excuses because my TBR is a mile long. So yeah, now I have no choice. I do in fact have to read Captive Prince and I'm excited. I think it's made a resurgence, it seems like. I mean, it has new covers and I've seen a couple of people talk about it. It's definitely doing well in the stores. So what do I think this book is about? Ooh, from what she's kind of vaguely told me, it's kind of dark. It's romance. It is maybe not fantasy, but in a fantastical land. Maybe not fantasy in terms of like magic and stuff like that, but I know it is in a fantastical land. And I think from what I've seen in the cover, let's see it again. One is a slave and one is a prince. Actually, I do think that's what it is because I remember she told me that 10 years ago when she read it, people were being really annoying about that because like the tan guy was the slave and I guess the blonde guy wasn't, and like they have that kind of romance eventually and people were being like, this is so wrong, this is problematic. Even though if you read the books further along, and this is all just going from what my sister told me, even though you read the book, you go further along in the series, that's not, it kind of switches. So maybe that's a spoiler, I don't know, but she's like, it's not what it seems. So that's all I know. It's romance in a fantastical land and he starts off as a slave and then the romance I guess happens, but it is dark. That's what she told me. That's all I know. That's all I know. Next up, we have Fireburn by Rosary Munda. One of my mutuals. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it, but I have seen 2 of my mutuals talk about this like well over a year ago. This has been my TBR for a very long time. I think it has dragon. Oh, I'm just seeing the cover now. It does in fact have dragons. Yes, I have no idea what this book is about. I know it's a series because it says so on the cover and it has dragons and it's a YA book and it's very well written. That's all I know. But I'm really excited to read this. I feel like, oh, it looks like it's multi-POV because I'm seeing a name called Lee Annie. Okay, multi-POV. I love that already. I love that already. Next, we have The Bone Shard Daughter, and then I think this is the second book, The Bone Shard Emperor. Also has been on my TBR for well over a year, maybe even 2 years. I'm not gonna lie to you, I couldn't tell you what this book is about. I have heard people maybe sometimes have it in the same category as Brandon Sanderson. I actually don't know. Ooh, I don't know actually. No, I don't know what this book is about. I know it has the FMC, like is the main character. Okay, oh, it's first person POV. which is fine. So this one I will actually be going in blind. I have absolutely no idea what this is about. And then we have Malice by John Gwynne, another book that is often compared, like literally the first one and this one, always compared when people talk about Brandon Sanderson. That is why I added it to my TBR, because I felt like all of my mutuals are talking about this book. I think everyone read this book last year, like everyone, because everyone went through their Brandon resurgence, right? They either read Mistborn or the Stormlight Archive, and they were looking for what next to sink their teeth into that gave that same vibe. Epic fantasy, probably betrayals, backstabbing, court politics, maybe. Oh, I'm excited. Oh wait, and I'm seeing characters' names at the back, so multi-POV, maybe even third person. It's third person multi-POV. It already has my heart. It's already done. I'm gonna love it. Okay, let's get started with my 2025 TBR. I don't even know how I picked this because I lived in Miami for a year for work. I'm back home in Canada because I'm traveling again to Nigeria soon, and then I'm moving to New York. So I knew I was gonna move around a lot, so I was like, let me just pick my Q1 book. I'm traveling all of Q1. Let me just pick the books that I want to read this quarter and bring it home. There was a lot of them. Let's start first with The City of Glass. A lot of these books I either thrifted or I bought, or most of them I got in PR. This is The City of Glass, but I like how small it is. Oh, it says a demon, an angel, and a city. That sounds fantastic. And I've seen 2 people only on my For You page talk about this, and they have both had rated it 5 stars actually. So they both had really great things to say. So I'm going to assume that that is in fact quite a good book, but I don't know what it's about. Next up, we have Serafina. This is another book that has a dragon. I thrifted this maybe 2 years ago, actually maybe a year ago. It was before I moved to Miami. No idea what it's about. I think it has romance. I thought it was a standalone, but then someone in my comments when I was doing like a thrift haul, so it was like, no, this is definitely a series. It has dragons, and so I want to get into my dragon era, but I know I'm not going to enjoy Fourth Wing, so I'm like not even going to bother with that. But dragons and YA fantasy. Next up, we have Red Friggin' Rising. Everyone read this book like first half of 2024. I feel like I'm the only one that hasn't read this yet. I thrifted this. I actually thrifted, I think, the first 2 books. I never ended up finding the 3rd book because by the time they get to the 3rd book, I'm going to give it away. Like they're like, I love the series. They got all the way to the end. I think this is sci-fi. I think it's like sci-fi fantasy. I've heard it's one of the best series that they've ever read. I actually have no idea. Oh, I'm seeing he. So I thought this was an FMC, but it sounds like it's a male MC, maybe first person POV. Okay, that's fine. I think there's 5 books in this series. I don't know much about it, but I'm excited. But I can't wait to see if it lives up to the hype. Next up, we have One for My Enemy by Levy Blake. I've read a couple of books by her at this point. Actually, just 2. The Atlas 6 trilogy, 5-star series to me. And then Alone with You in the Ether, probably here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Literally one of my favorite romance books ever. I have read this book an ungodly amount of times. Like when I say I love this book, I mean that I am obsessed with this book. I've read it. I listened to it on audio. It is just phenomenal. One for My Enemy, I think it's like family politics is my understanding. Olivia Blake books always have pictures in the middle. And I think I didn't read the synopsis because it's Olivia Blake, and I was like, let me just buy it because I love her. But I think I did look at like pictures, and the pictures kind of showed like family. Like it almost showed like this picture kind of looks like a matriarch and a boy. So I was like, okay, family type dynamic, seeing what that's about. I've seen mixed reviews on this, I'm not gonna lie. Some people either loved it, some people were like, I just didn't really connect to the story, but that's for me to find out because it is Olivia Blake, and I do love her storytelling ability. I'm gonna do a very light look today because I'm just going to the grocery store. Next up, we have the Yasad Air. Actually, I think people talked about it a lot very early on when I added it to my TBR. I don't think I even read the synopsis. I think I just saw people talking about it over a year ago. And was it over a year ago? I don't know. Wait, I'm remembering. I actually never saw anyone talk about this book. I went to the store and just bought it because it gave off an Ember in the Ashes vibe. That's actually what happened. And I think the one person I've seen talk about it didn't give it a great review, but it's giving off like Middle Eastern folklore mythology vibe, and I love books like that. So I don't think I've actually ever seen anyone. I think the people that I've seen talk about this, it was on their TBR, but I don't know if I've ever seen a review from someone who actually read it. And the one review I saw wasn't great. But also, it's also giving off this Woven Kingdom vibes, which also gave off Middle Eastern mythology type fantasy book, and I didn't like that book. I didn't hate it. The first book fell a bit flat, and then I sensed a love triangle, and so I never continued. Don't disappoint me. Please don't disappoint me. Like this seems like, just from looking at the cover, again, have not read the synopsis, but I'm like, I feel like if done well, I just get the vibe that this book could be my next personality. And then we have another book that I got in PR, To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. I actually received 2 of these. One was the normal Prince paperback, and then another one was this one. And I'm actually giving that one away in a giveaway that I'm going to do. I don't even know when. I've been saying I'm going to do a giveaway, and now I have like 50 books that I'm going to do a giveaway. So if you want that, make sure you follow me on all my other platforms for when I announce that. But I love the cover of this one. That's why I decided to keep this one as opposed to the other one. I think the other one is just this cover, and this one has both, like literally a paperback / hardback type situation, but it's all paperback. Love this cover. Love this. Very excited to read this. I've heard mixed reviews, I'm not gonna lie, but I love the name of the book, To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. Like I think that's just so unique and creative, and I love the cover, and that's really all it takes to drag me in. Next up, we have The Immortal Dark. I got this at Target a few months ago. Why did I get this book? I don't even really remember. I think I was getting it mistaken for another book. I'll insert the book here when I remember what it is, but I think I thought that's what this book was. I don't know if it even is the same book. I don't know. I think I remember someone talking about a book, and then when I went to Target and they were doing buy two get one free, I assumed it was this book, but I don't know if that's actually right. And that book was the book that I thought it was vampire. So if it's the same book, then Immortal Dark is about a vampire or vampires. And also Immortal Dark could be a vampire type book name. I feel like if this book ended up being about vampires, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Immortal Dark, the name even sounds kind of vampire-ish. Even the cover looks like very dark. So no idea what this is about. Love the sprayed edges. What does it say? Maybe that'll give me an idea. No soul can enter without an invitation. Also, again, like vampire. It's giving off vampire vibes. Do I know if this is the book that I actually went into Target to get? I didn't actually go into Target to get a book. It was just there and it was buy two get one free. So I was like, fine. But do I think this is the book that I saw someone raving about? I have no idea. I guess you find out with me when I post the book here of what I actually thought it was going to be. But regardless, no idea what that's about, but it could potentially be about vampires. I'm going to New York for 48 hours to tour apartment. I think I'm actually going to vlog that entire thing because I'm seeing 12 apartments in 48 hours. And yes, I'm very nervous. Next up, we have the book that everyone read last year, A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. If you saw my previous video, the video where I rank all the books already 2024, then you know that I love the Bridge Kingdom series. That is a 5-star series for me. And so when this book came out, I was like, oh, I for sure have to read another book by her. It is the first book in a series, which for me tends to like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, do I really want to read like the first book when like there's so many, when it means that I have to wait years for the rest of the books in the series. So I actually didn't buy it when everyone else did. I was going to wait until at least 2 of the books were out, but then I went to Target and I saw that the sprayed edges were still there because Target and Barnes & Nobles were making it seem as if the sprayed edges were very, very limited edition. Like they were about to be gone just like that. And that actually almost made me buy it with everyone else. But then I was like, I don't really care if there's no sprayed edges. Like, it's not gonna, change my enjoyment of the book if I end up enjoying it or not enjoying it. So I was like, I'm not gonna give into FOMO. Didn't buy it. Went to Target months later. At this point, like no one was really talking about the book because everyone had read it. And then I saw it and I was like, you liars. You're liars. Like this is not, you know what I mean? Like it's still here. This is why you should not give into FOMO because that's what these companies want you to do. They want you to feel like it's done. Like I'm seeing all the craziness of the Target exclusive editions of Onyx Storm, which came out, this is Saturday the 25th as I'm filming this. And so I think Onyx Storm came out earlier this week. Everyone going crazy. Who's selling it on Facebook Marketplace for like hundreds of dollars, even though it was only a couple of like tens of bucks in friggin' Target. Like, and then I think Target ended up announcing that they are going to come back with more Target exclusive covers. Relax, guys. Like, just calm down. Whether or not you have that cover, it's still gonna be the same book inside. I promise. What do we have next? Bloodguard by C. Robbins. I have not seen a single person talk about this, but I also feel like it's a Red Tower book, I think. Ooh, advanced copy, not for sale. So this is another book I got in PR. Is it a Red Tower book? I thought it was. No, it's by Entangled Publishing, which tends to be a hit or miss for a lot of people. I don't actually, do I know what this is about? Okay, wait. I think this is a very fantasy book because there's some fantasy books where there's no actual fantastical creatures. It's just a fantastical world. And there are some books that only have like maybe 1 or 2 fantastical creatures, like either just vampires or fairies or whatever. I think Bloodguard is actually like a fantasy book. Like it has ogres and that kind of like centaurs, those kind of creatures. I think that's actually why when they reached out to me and they were like, we would love to send you this book, I was like, you know what? Oh yeah. Like I love reading books that like not too fantastical, but then I also love reading books similar to Brandon Sanderson where a lot of fantastical creatures and you do have to like keep up. Next up, we have Tress of the Emerald Sea. Actually, one of my followers sent me this book because oh wait, this is a funny story. I forgot to say the author. It's Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is one of his few very romance heavy books. It is a romantic fantasy or a fantasy romance. Thrifted, I think I've talked about it. I thrifted all 4 books of the Red Queen series and I hated it. That book took over my life because how much potential it had and how much it fell flat. Maybe one day I'll do a whole video fucking essay on what that book could have been. Oh, I'm so mad. Anyways, so I'm gonna go return this. Like I'm gonna go give this back to the thrift store because like this is so bad. I don't even want to look at it. Like, did you see how fake book 4 was? Like so fucking fake. Nothing happened. No character development. 4 books, no character development. Oh my god. I'm okay. I'm okay. So I make a video basically being like, okay, this is the final video I'll make on this, but I'm going to give this away. I'm probably going to go to the thrift store because like I can't look at these books. One of my followers messages me and she's like, hey, like I would love to take this off your hands. And I was like, oh, sure. Like I will, like they're yours. And she's like, how much? And I was like, oh no, completely free. I'll ship them to you. Like no cost, whatever. And she's like, oh my god, that's so nice. Like you don't have to do that. And I was like, why would I charge you? And I was like, well, I like it's just like I'm Nigerian. It's not very normal to charge. Like even though like we're not friends, like we didn't know each other that well at the start. I would never charge someone, but she was so like grateful and everything. She was like, do you have a wish list? Which I'd actually just started putting together my Amazon wish list. And so when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, perfect. I'm actually starting to put that together just because I want to remember a book that I want to buy on Amazon, like not on Amazon, but like use Amazon as kind of a TBR because I don't like to buy books on Amazon. No judgment if you do. And so she went on there and she got me Tress of the Emerald Sea. This was well over a year ago. I've had that book I've owned it physically, not even on my TBR. Owned it physically well over a year. We're actually pushing 2 years at this point. And then when I started my Brandon Sanderson Stormlight Archives, and I made a lot of videos about it, basically being like, I'm trying to trick people into reading this book by saying that it has a lot of romance, even though it doesn't. And I think that video actually went viral. People were like, oh, actually, Trust of the Emerald Sea has a lot of romance, and I didn't know that when I was giving this book. But then I also saw someone say, one other person said, because a lot of people said that Trust of the Emerald Sea has romance, so we know that for sure. One other person said that this book has wits. If you've read Stormlight Archive, book 1, any of the books, you know who Wit is. And I'm like, how am I just now finding out? Is that a lie? Like, how am I now just finding out that this book has wits? You should have said that first and I would have immediately read it. Like, that is enough reason for me to want to pick up that book. I love that character. But yeah, from what I remember what it's about, and I don't know why I remember this after 2 years of owning it and never reading the synopsis ever again after that one time, but I think it's about a girl whose love is taken or something, and her dad is a pirate, so she takes her dad's pirate ship to go save him. That is definitely like an oversimplification, but that is what I remember this book being about. Okay, last 2 books. Next we have Blood Over Brighthaven, which I was literally manifesting getting this book in PR, and when I did, when I got that email, I was like, thank you so much. I love the cover, but then I also love, the sprayed edges. And in PR, it actually came with these 2 pictures. I think this is the FMC. She looks angry and amazing, and I already love her. And then they also gave me the map of, I guess, what the world is. I know nothing about this book except for the fact that it was on everyone's favorite book of 2024 wrap up. Like, everyone talked about this book. Every single person talked about this book and the book I'm going to talk about next. You probably already see it, but literally, like, everyone loved this book. Actually, I've seen no negative reviews on this. None. It's actually Will of the Many, which I'll talk about next, that I've seen like 99% positive reviews, and then I've seen 1 negative one. And then when you go to the comments, everyone agrees, and so it's like, oh wow, more people don't. Okay, let's stick to this one. I think this is Dark Academia, but I could be mistaking it with another book that everyone talks about. So I actually, like, I don't really know the difference between these 2. All I know is that everyone loved them. I don't know, I think it's Female Rage, but maybe that's another Emma Wong book that I'm mistaking it with. Maybe it is. Okay, The Study of Magic. I read the first 2 lines. It is Dark Academia. Very, very excited to pick that up. And lastly, of course, we have Will of the Many, another Dark Academia book, but I've heard that it's like very loosely Dark Academia. Like, that is a stretch. It's not too Dark Academia, but it's also like, fine, you could get away with calling it that, so that's what we'll call it. Yeah, I've seen very, very, very little bad reviews about this. I've seen 1, and that was it. Everyone else said that this book was the best book they've ever read. Also, they're changing the cover. So another funny story about that, I wasn't going to read it when everyone else did, because again, I like to wait until at least 2 books are out. I know that's kind of a controversial opinion. Some people are like, you need to support authors. Others are like, no, it's not a big deal if you want to wait. I do like to wait, so I wasn't going to buy that book. And then I saw that they were changing the covers, and so I was immediately like, oh, I need to buy this cover because I love the cover, and I didn't want to own the new ones because when I saw it, it was so, I don't want to call it ugly, but it's not what I like. And so I actually ended up buying one quickly on Amazon because I was like, I want to make sure that I own this cover. And then I was like, oh my god, I just bought a book on Amazon. No, I need to support bookstores. It doesn't matter which one. So I bought a second one on Barnes & Noble, and I'm going to do a giveaway on that one when I do give away the 50 books that I've accumulated over the last year. Again, follow me on my socials if you want to be a part of that. So I own 2 of those, all because of FOMO. Literally, FOMO finally got to me, and it was because I did not want to own those new covers. It does kind of annoy me though that the new covers are not going to match the old cover. What can you do? Okay, let's talk about my 2025 reading goals pretty quickly. The first reading goal is no reading goal, and by that I mean no numerical reading goal, because I feel like that kind of messed me up last year. I didn't want to do any monthly or quarterly reading wrap-ups, even yearly reading wrap-ups. I was so anxious to do, all because I knew I didn't make my reading goal of 80 books. I read 100 books in 2023. I reduced it a bit in 2024 because I knew it was going to be a busy year, and I didn't make it, and I was so like mad at myself that I was like, I'm not, that it kind of made me not want to come online and like do reading wrap-ups, which I used to love to do. So I was like, you know what, this year, no more numerical reading goal. Whatever I read is what I read, and that's completely fine because it's not a race. Next reading goal is booktube, which not really a reading goal. It just means that I want to start taking booktube more seriously. A lot of people started taking booktube seriously because obviously TikTok going away. For me, it was mainly because I love to yap, and I was starting to feel really constricted by the whole 1.5 reels. I was trying to repurpose my TikTok on reels, which meant that my TikToks also had to be under 1.5 minutes. And yes, that's good for some videos, but it was starting to like really make me feel constricted. And so I was like, I need to focus on booktube because I can just talk and yap and spend a whole 1.5 minutes on one book instead of trying to fit like 5-10 books into one video. Next reading goal is reading books on my TBR, which I think is going to be really easy for me to do. And I say that because I'm traveling a lot, especially this first quarter, like traveling so much that I think already that decision has already been made for me. I do have to just prioritize books on my TBR, only reading books I own. I don't have the time or the energy or the space in my luggage to, take more books. And so I think that's going to be slightly easy for me. Also, this kind of relates to the next reading goal, which is no bookish PR. I am not accepting any bookish PR. I almost gave in. It's January 25th, and I almost gave in a few times when I would get emails basically being like, this person's new book and this person's new book. But I was like, you know what? No. Fuck, how do I just keep like fucking up his makeup. Like it's literally just grocery shopping. But yes, I do not want to accept any PR, at least for the first half of the year. I really just want to focus on moving, traveling. Once I do finish traveling, settling down in whatever apartment I end up picking in New York. I really think I accumulated a lot in Miami. Like I think I went to Miami with like 50-ish books. I came back with like 150. And a lot of those are in my storage room in Miami because I just didn't have the space to bring them all back. So yeah, really want to focus on just reading books that I already own this year, especially with all of my travel plans. Next reading goal is I want to have a book club when I move to New York. I really want to start like having that as a priority, meeting people in real life to talk about books. And I have a really unique idea for how my book club is going to be structured because I'm the kind of person that likes a lot of things at once. So I'm not the kind of person that wants to just like do the typical like read one book, talk about it. That can be fun, but I have a really unique idea for this and I'm excited because I feel like I really wanted to do this idea in Miami, but then I was like, Miami isn't my forever place. Like it's great for this 1 year, but I know that, you know, I'm not overly in love with it. I know I'm not going to stay here for long. I don't care how low the taxes are. So let me not quote unquote waste my energy doing it in a place that isn't my forever place. Let me wait for my forever place. And I'm not saying that New York is my forever place, but at least for now, 100% it like is the place that I want to be for the next couple of years. So I want to build like a bookish club type thing. Maybe bookish club is more, for the idea I have, I think it's a better name, but it is book club like. So that's my goal. Next reading goal is to not use Kindle Unlimited anymore. And the reason being is that I had it for like well over a year, 2 years at this point. And I think there were months that I'd go and I wouldn't use it because I'd read the fantasy books I own or I'd buy the books physically. And it wasn't until maybe October of last year that I was like, why do I still own this? Like, why am I still using this? Or why am I still paying for this? And so I decided to actually cancel it. And now I buy the books that I want to read. A lot of the times it's romance books that I read on KU. And I thought it would annoy me to be like, oh my gosh, I bought this romance book and I ended up not liking it. But honestly, I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with that. So yeah, this year I just want to focus on like, if I want to read a romance book on my Kindle, I'm gonna buy it. I'm not going to pay for KU anymore. I just finished reading The Girl Who Loved the Earl or something like that, a book that has been on my TBR for far too long, a romance book, historical romance. And it was like a 3.5. I thought it would be definitely higher. I think I paid, I don't even know how much for that, and I'm completely fine with that. As long as it means that I'm on my Kindle reading books that I want to read and paying for stuff that I want to read, regardless of whether or not they end up being 5 stars or not. And I think Kindle Unlimited just kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm paying for something where I could go months without using. Last bookish goal is to discover more romance authors. So I want to read romance books, not just by the authors that everyone talks about. I actually want to like discover even more romance authors because right now I feel like I only know the really popular ones, and even the ones on my TBR, it's by authors that everyone else knows, which is great. I mean, they're obviously popular for a reason, and I tend to also really like their books. But I think in 2025, I want to focus on reading books by authors that maybe I've never heard about or others haven't heard about, and just like giving light and attention to these types of authors. So that is also another reading goal of mine. Well, that is the end. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. I'm going to be doing a Rhythm of War Stormlight Archive book 4 reading vlog. I have thoughts. I have opinion. Bye.